everyone, and welcome back to my channel. Today I am going to be talking about the books that I have recently read. So I guess we're going to call this a recent reads. I do have 5 books that I'm going to be talking about today. And I debated for a little bit how I wanted to do these videos. I didn't know if I wanted to like wrap up all of my books at the end of the month, or if I wanted to do like smaller segments and just cover like 5 at a time. And so the latter is what I'm going to be doing. These are the 5 most recent books that I've read, and I'm going to start with the ones that I've read first and then end with the ones that I've read more recently. So without further ado, I think we should just go ahead and jump right on in. First book I have to talk about today is The Vanishing by Brit Bennett, and this is a historical fiction set in like the 1960s to the 1980s, and this follows these twin sisters that are black, and they live in a black community in the Deep South, and with some circumstances with like being forced to drop out of school and having to work with their mother and just a few other things that they just can't really handle anymore, they do end up leaving and running away to, I believe it's like New Orleans, and or that's one of the places they end up at. But and then it like jumps forward about like 10 years, and one of the sisters who is leaving an abusive relationship with her husband, and she has a daughter, moved back to the old town of Mallard, that's where they're from, and other sister is living in California, and she is actually passing as white, and she also is married and has kids, but her family knows nothing about her past. They don't know anything about like where she's came from. They don't know she's black or anything like that. And so this is about them, their lives, and actually their daughters as well, and how their lives intertwine, because they definitely do. But yeah, I enjoyed this book. I think I gave it like 4 stars on Goodreads. And even though I did enjoy it, it was a little slow for me. I think I was just, at the moment, I was probably wanting something a little bit more fast-paced, because I don't mind like slower books, but you know, it's definitely like what you're in the mood for. And I did enjoy like the first half of this book a little bit more than the second half. I did really enjoy like the development of the characters, and I got like immersed in the story, and like, you know, that comparison of like when you're immersed into something and like it's 2 romantic partners and you're just like, okay, kiss already. You kind of get that in this, but with like wanting the sisters to find each other, or like the daughters to like contact each other and to like really figure out that they're related, just kind of like that thing. It's like, okay, now just figure it out already, you know? So you definitely got that. It also tackled a lot of important messages like your identity and family and acceptance of yourself and others. And so I did really enjoy seeing how the book tackled those. And this book does, I remember before I had read this that I had heard that there was LGBT rep, specifically trans rep in this, and then I hadn't seen that like talked about ever again, and I was like, oh well, maybe I was thinking of a different book. But then I read this, and I can confirm that it does have LGBT, specifically trans representation. And I'm not like trans myself, but I do believe that the representation was well done, was well written, but just take that with, you know, the grain of salt, because I can't actually say that because I'm not trans myself. So yeah. And just like a huge sucker for historical fiction. I didn't even realize it was historical fiction either when I picked it up. I don't know, I if you've been in my channel for a while, you know that I go into books not knowing anything. So I wasn't expecting it to historical fiction, and then I was surprised, especially since like the historical fiction that I usually read is like, I guess like what most people can say is like World War II era, around there. And this is a different historical fiction that's not set in like Europe. It's set in, you know, the rural South of the US in like the 1960s. So I think that's actually a first that I've read with like my historical fiction. So that was really nice change. And I've also heard that this might be like an HBO like limited series, so if that's true, I would definitely watch it because I do think it would be nice to see this in like that kind of format. I definitely don't think they would be able to cover it all in like a movie, but I think like a limited series would do this very well. And then just like with the ending, I wasn't a huge fan of the ending. I don't want to say too much, but yeah, like I was saying before about like the pacing of it, and I was just really wanting something like fast paced. I guess I was more in the mood for a different ending, because this book is just, it's really good, but it's just also like really sad. And it's like the ending, it just, I don't know. I was wanting something happy at that time when I read it, and I didn't get that. But I think I might read this again at some point. Maybe when I'm in a different headspace, that I think I would really enjoy this more. So what I read after The Vanishing Half was, we're just gonna go into a completely different direction. And I read The Green Mile Part 1 by Stephen King. This is like, you can get The Green Mile in like the huge like full version. I have it in like the serial novels where there's like 6 of them, and they're super short. As you can see, they're like 100 pages a piece, which is just super nice. Yeah, this wasn't even 100 pages. 92. So this was definitely a nice little, I don't want to say like a palate cleanser because it's like Stephen King and it's not really how you would describe his books. About a guy named John Coffey who is charged with a murder of these 2 little girls, and he's charged with the death penalty. And so this is about him and his, I'm pretty sure it's just like his guard of the prison, like that little section of the death penalty prison. I can't remember his name, but as you can see, this book's like super small, like this first installation of it, so it doesn't really go into much. It's pretty much just like we learn most about John Coffey's, like his backstory and about the, like how they found him, and just like the introduction of characters. Pretty much, it's kind of hard to describe because it wasn't like something that had like a beginning, middle, end. This is pretty much just the very beginning. It didn't really touch on on much. And since we didn't really get into like the plot of the book, or of the story, I guess I should say, because it's like 6 books, and let's just read the whole one. I'll say it was okay, because it's just, it's really hard, like I said, because it doesn't, I can't really critique like the beginning, middle, end type of thing, so, in the plot, but I am really interested in diving more into it, and the like the shortness of them all is definitely going to make that easier. And actually, like in the very beginning of the book, there's like a foreword by King, and he kind of talked about that, and like the appeal of like the serial novels. It's just, they're super quick, and but you're not going to like binge them, like binge a whole story. You have to like wait until like another one comes out, like back when it originally came out. But yeah, this is definitely a lot less intimidating than like King's other novels that are like 500 plus pages. I could definitely just knock out a 90-ish page book in a day. And I did end up giving this like 3 stars. So the third book I read, I actually don't have a physical copy of. I did get it as an e-arc, and that is Court of Bitter Thorn. It's hard when I don't have the book, by K.L. Moody. And like I said, I did get this as an e-arc, and I really enjoyed this book. It follows this mortal girl, Elora, and she is like having to do this arranged marriage because she's the eldest in the family, and she's like really into like sword fighting, but of course this is a fantasy and we have fae and all that. But anyway, it's a fantasy book, so of course, since she's a girl, she can't participate in any tournaments. So of course, like a common thing that we see in like fantasy books that deal with fae and the fairy, her parents end up burning in a fire and dying, so she's left having to take care of her two younger sisters. And as she's trying to like make money or like get food for her family, she comes across this guy, Brannick, who is Fae, and he bargains with her that he'll help her like get these apples down from the tree and others. I can't exactly remember like that part of the bargain, but in return, she would teach him how to sword fight for this upcoming tournament to become the next High King of Fairy. This book, like, I'm a huge sucker for books, like fantasy books and like books about the Fae. And because like what we normally see, at least what I've normally seen in these books, is like we got like enemies to lovers situation going on, and this book is no different. They definitely are enemies in the beginning, and he keeps her like locked up in her room, and he like enchants her to where she can't talk about their bargain at all with anyone because it's supposed to stay a secret. And so she really hates him, and one of the other Fae that's also in the competition makes another bargain with her where if she tells him what his plans are, what Brannick's plans are for the throne, I think it was mainly his like speech that he was going to give, because she can't really tell much, like she couldn't mention the sword fighting because of their bargain. So if she did that, then he would help return her home to her family. And because she just really just wanted to go back to her family at that point. Like she wasn't able to experience the world of fairy because she was locked up. So of course that like is gonna have its problems. And I really enjoyed this book. And I actually there's this book and like one other arc that I've read that I'm definitely interested in getting the physical copy of. This book is already out, so it's in like my Amazon like saved for later for when I want to buy it, because I did really enjoy it, and I think it is going to be a series, and I don't know how many there are, but it's probably gonna be like a trilogy or something, because that's what they normally are, right? I was definitely like really hooked into the story and super immersed throughout the entire thing. And usually like when I read ebooks, I actually read them at work, like during my lunch and like right before my shift. And I actually read this one outside of work as well, because I wanted more. And even after being finished, I just want more. I want the next installment, but I don't know when it's coming out. I thought that the characters were also very well developed, and you could even see like from the beginning Elora and Brannick and like some of the other side characters, they definitely grew as characters throughout the story. And so that was really nice to see, and that also helped with the immersion. That's what I'm really big on too, is just like the development of characters. So then of course, as I said with like the Vanishing half, you get that like, okay, just kiss already moment. Yeah, you definitely get that with Elora and Brannick, because of course it's enemies to lovers, and like I don't really think that's a spoiler. I think that's just what happens in a lot of like Fae books when it involves a mortal and someone of the Fae. So, but yeah, I really recommend this book. I know I've heard like a few people talk about K.L. Moody's books, and it's like you either like love them or you hate them, but this is the first one I've read from this author, and yeah, I really enjoyed it. But I also haven't read a whole lot of Fae, like fairy books, so that also might have something to do with it, but yeah, I recommend it. So the next book that I read, what's this, number 4, is Afar. This is a graphic novel by Leila Del Dulce. I hope I said that right. And then illustrated by Kit Seaton. I think I said Keat last time because I can't talk. But yeah, this is a graphic novel, and it's like super pretty. And I was just mesmerized by the artwork. And I had super high expectations for this, and I think that ruined it for me. because I didn't enjoy it as much as I was hoping to. So I forgot to mention what I gave the rating for The Court of Bitter Thorn, and it was between a 4 and a 5 star for me. I did end up giving it a 4 star, but it was probably like super close to being a 5 star. And with Afar, I gave it 3 stars because I did enjoy it, but I definitely was expecting more from it. But I guess I should talk about what this is about, right? So this is about siblings who one of them is able to like astral project. Like while she's sleeping, she's able to possess these like creatures on other planets, and one of them that she ends up possessing, she ends up hurting, or she ends up hurting someone while possessed in that body, and then she wakes up and she's like, oh crap, what did I do? And so she's trying to get back to like possessing that body again, but she's having to like, she doesn't really know how to like control her power, so she doesn't really know how to. And then we have her brother who gets caught eavesdropping on this like very important illegal like business transaction going on or something like that. And so he's wanted by them, and so they have to leave like the town they're from, and then they go to this other town, and I don't know. I was very confused by this. I think it would have been a lot better if this wasn't a standalone. If they made it either like longer to where they could really develop the storyline just a little bit more, or make it into like a multi-part like series, I think it would have really benefited from that. But I did really enjoy like the characters, but yeah, I was definitely expecting a little bit more from this than I got, and it's just so unfortunate because I was so excited. But you know, maybe that's just my fault, because I went in with really high expectations, so it happens. The final book that I am going to be talking about in this video is Illuminae by Aime Kaufman and Kristoff. And I was not planning on reading this like this month or anytime soon, but then it was on a really good sale. It was like half off. This was like $6. And this is a book that I've been really wanting to pick up because I knew it had multimedia elements into it, like in the book, but I didn't realize it was all like multimedia, which is just super cool. I love when books include multimedia in them, and just having a book that tells a story in that way, where it's just all multimedia, was super fascinating to me. And so I didn't write anything down about this in my notes because I wasn't expecting to read this, and it was like this is my most recent one. So this follows Katie and Ezra and their exes. They like just broke up like right before they were taken, and by one of the military corporations, but they're having to like, they are like pretty much forced to talk to each other, and when like their AI like goes crazy, and then there's like a deadly plague, and I didn't even know there was a plague, and I love infectious diseases. If you know anything about me, I love learning about infectious diseases or reading books about them, so I definitely enjoyed that aspect of it. And of course, like, the leaders aren't saying anything about what's going on, and so they're having to pretty much figure it out for themselves. And it was just so good. I gave this one 4 stars. I really enjoyed it, and like it's a pretty big book, but again, it's in like such different like formats, and it's like emails and like messaging, and like what are some of the other ones, like surveillance reports. It's a really neat format that I really enjoyed reading, and it was super interesting to see them tell a story in this type of way as well, because I believe that would be like super difficult to do when you're not writing in like that traditional like novel format. And I think they did it so well. And I haven't read much sci-fi, and so I was a little bit confused with some of the terminology that was used, and I'm definitely way too lazy to like look up like definitions of some things. So that was a little tricky, but it definitely didn't take away from the story at all. Like I still was able to understand enough of it to really enjoy it. And this is a series. This is, I think, has 3 books in it, and I'm definitely going to be reading the other 2. But yeah, I really enjoy this, and like I said, I gave it 4 stars, and yeah, that's all I have for you all today. I hope you all enjoyed this video and my ramblings, if you got anything from it. But overall, I enjoyed most of these books. I'd say the one that I was most surprised with, or the one that I really liked the most, was Court of Bitter Thorn, which I wasn't really expecting to enjoy that much. And then like my biggest disappointment one was Afar, the graphic novel. But I really just think that I just had my expectations way too high. That's what I honestly think was the problem with it. But yeah, thank you guys so much for watching. I hope you all have a great rest of your day, and I will catch you guys next time. Bye!